Hi, it's Des here. I'm in Denver in Colorado. I'm at Commvault GO 2019. I have the pleasure of being joined by Penny Gralewski. Penny, thanks for joining me on camera.
Thank you so much, Des. Thanks for having me.
It's great to see you. Now, I'd like to talk about a cloud survey you've been running for, I think it's about 3 years now. Maybe if we just start with what it actually is. So beyond the obvious cloud survey title, give us some insight into what it actually is and what it entails.
Sure. So, we see all the industry analyst reports, we see what other tech companies are doing, and we see surveys of, what might be changing, but we want to understand what's actually happening with Commvault customers. We know what they're doing in the cloud. We want to understand why they're moving their data to the cloud, what's driving that, and how we can help them.
I mean, it's very much a case of putting your finger on the pulse of what your client base is doing currently, I guess, and also where they're going future-wise. So give us some insight into the types of data that you're collecting. So what sort of questions you're asking, what data is coming out of that, what are you learning from it? And because I mean, over the last 3 years, you must have gained some great insights thus far.
Absolutely, and we do compare the results year over year to see things like, is multi-cloud trending?
Right.
And in fact, yes, we've got about 63% of the surveyed Commvault Cloud customers using more than one cloud. That could be a public cloud, private cloud, multiple public, multiple private. So that's a trend that we're watching because right now Commvault supports the huge range of cloud storage options. We always want to be on the pulse of what do our customers need, and as we continue to have day one support for things like Azure UltraDisk or AWS Glacier Deep Archive, we want to make sure that we are right there, cutting edge for what our customers might be needing.
And as an organization, I know for myself, my own experience working with you as a customer in some cases in a previous life, and also as a partner in many ways, this seems to be part of the culture and behavior of the organization, that you've always been inside clients asking that level of deep question around what are you doing currently, what are the business cases you're using, what are the use cases you want to do, apply in the future, how can we better protect your data, and also the other inspection, what are some of the challenges you're facing with implementing the technologies with what we've got. With the data you've got though, I mean, I'm interested in some of the trends and stats you've got. I mean, we've gone from physical to virtual to sort of lift and shift VMware to sort of, and other hypervisor platforms to sort of cloudy things, and now we're in true cloud where, as you said, we've got multi-cloud. So we've got public clouds, we've got private clouds, we've got third-party cloud operators who are offering it as a service, we've got different types of cloud services, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. You've got some fantastic offerings with your acquisition of Hedvig recently, and yesterday's announcements with Metallic, which is fantastic. So this is, I guess, a case of shifting sands constantly, where you're having to move at great speed and great pace to keep up with. Give us some insight into some of the stuff that's coming from the clients. Where are the challenges that they're facing today?
Well, definitely we're seeing people, of course, doing backup and archive to the cloud. That's the low-hanging fruit.
Right.
An IT director said that a year ago, that it's archive is a low-hanging fruit. Best way to put it. That is an easy first step, and in fact, what a lot of our customers are doing.
Right.
Then come the more challenging projects like disaster recovery. And we're actually seeing an increase in disaster recovery and multi-cloud disaster recovery.
Right.
Whether you're recovering from a cloud, you're moving data from one cloud to another cloud, or if you are recovering from a cloud to on-prem. So there's a lot of different trends that we're seeing around disaster recovery, and that is maybe driven by ransomware, the increase in challenges with natural disasters. We've just seen a lot of that recently.
Yeah.
So some big trends there. Also, we always see tape replacement.
Yeah.
Tape replacement is a constant trend in our survey. And more, we're seeing backup of SaaS applications. We've been talking an awful lot about backing up Office 365. Some people just don't realize you need to back up your SaaS applications, including some of your business critical things like Office 365.
Yeah.
And not just the mailboxes, but the SharePoint, the OneDrive, everything that's tied to that. You can back that up into Azure, but actually you have flexibility to back it up into any cloud that you want to and recover it in the way that makes sense. So the goal ultimately for people putting data in the cloud is to use that data, and that's the trend that we're going to be surveying next. Right after Go, we'll do our next iteration of the survey, and we want to see how are you using data. We'll also be asking some more detailed questions about the drivers from different business initiatives, and that's something we're trending year over year also.
Yeah, actually there's an interesting point you made there, because I think a lot of people, as you say, they think about the specific things that impact them, like their email, maybe their documents, but what they don't think about is the configuration of the platform. So you might be using a third-party SaaS platform for your CRM or your email or whatever, but a large part of it is the configuration, the settings, domain names, whatever, usernames and passwords and accounts, and that's easy to forget when you're using someone else's platform. Because I think, we hear it a lot, but when you think about cloud, it's just somebody else's computers, and we just keep forgetting that. One of the other interesting use cases that I've heard around the place now is that when we think about cloud infrastructure, people often think about their production space, but a lot of my experience with what Commvault does, it gives us the ability to not just back up and protect the data, and as you said, maybe put on tape media or archive it, but also to recover it for legal purposes, if it goes to court, for testing, for compliance and governance. That must be a much easier challenge when it's in the cloud and you can do almost instant recovery or instant recovery of partial data, surely.
Right, definitely. Much easier than you can do a tape.
Yeah.
Finding where is the right tape that has this data that I might need for a legal reason. So we did survey the customers, asking them, why did you originally move data to the cloud? And 43% of them moved data to the cloud for agility.
Right.
How quickly can I recover that data and actually find just the file I need? Not bring back the entire virtual machine, just the file I need out of that. 35% of them were driven by digital transformation. That's something we see all the time. And 21% of them chose cost savings. Not a lot of people realize that the cloud might not always be your cheapest option, but it's going to give you the agility you need for your business initiatives.
Well, yeah, indeed, and I think that's an underpinning theme I've seen here in the last couple of days, and that is that people have been talking about that very point. That is, when you talk about cost, it isn't just the monetary component.
Right.
In fact, I had a really interesting conversation with someone yesterday about this, just coming out one of the demo sessions, which was, I looked and thought, this is a really fast way, and it was one of the demos for Metallic, really fast way to go from what we used to do with physical media to digital media and a cloud-based media, where it may, whether it's more expensive or not with Metallic, but in other platforms, let's say we move to the cloud and it's a little bit more expensive as far as the sticker shock goes, I get all that back in the functionality, agility, and the fact that I can do snapshots, I can take my production, make a copy, and then all of a sudden do testing on it, rollbacks, whatever. I think if we stop worrying about the monetary cost so much, because often there's a lot of hidden costs we don't account for, right? So cloud has taught us that there's a fully burdened cost that we're now paying third parties for that we may have been hiding in our balance sheet before as well, right? We weren't always accounting for all the dollars of hosting it ourselves. But the time is the big thing that I'm hearing, that ability to do it instantly means that I'm not waiting for 8 hours for a request to get a tape back in some warehouse, and I'm not waiting for 2 days for that file to be recovered and find out it's the wrong file in the first place, the wrong day, right?
Right.
Which means the business just keeps running, no one has to stop.
Exactly. And our customers are driven by providing better customer service, by product innovation, and by being more competitive in their markets. And so they do look at the opportunity cost of cloud. If I am not able to be agile and use my data, what is my business missing out on? And we have some great customers speaking here at Commvault GO about providing better service to their customers and their constituents. One's a university that really had the goal of being more agile to provide data that their students needed very quickly. We have another university that talks about using the cloud for disaster recovery because they want to make sure that they can keep business critical applications running. Applications in the cloud are a very big story. So when I asked in the survey, what's driving this change? What's driving you to move data to the cloud? 72% of people talked about IT modernization. And we've been talking about IT modernization for years, right?
Yeah, you think it was an old topic, but it keeps coming up.
In many different forms. IT modernization can mean something different to each person, whether it's turning off tape, or that dying hardware, or maybe turning off Unix or AIX or Solaris systems that Commvault can support. And that's the great thing about Commvault, whether it's the legacy information that you needed in the past, the things you're using today, or the future technologies that you really want to start implementing, Commvault gives you that flexibility to cover end-to-end what you might need.
That's pretty cool. So I'm really interested in you're gathering a lot of very, very interesting information there, very powerful data to leverage. One of the challenges I see organizations like Commvault being challenged with all the time is that there is no such thing as a steady state. Things are constantly changing, and particularly now where we've got more and more agile, more and more flexible technologies, we can create more and more complex systems that invariably means more and more complex data. Give us some examples of where you've leveraged that for Commvault's value in the short term to kind of stay ahead of the curve, and then, I guess, then be able to offer services as and when people need them. Because I see this challenge where you've got to always be ahead of the curve. You don't, customers are always trying to catch up with digital transformation, modernization of technology. They're always sort of slightly behind the curve because trends come and they have to respond to it. But you've got to be ahead of the trend, in many cases setting the trend. Have you got some examples that, where you've been able to leverage this data to, I guess, be ahead of that curve and the service delivery and the technology capability, or even just offering more competitive packaging?
Well, I think there's several different ways. When I asked the people what's driving change, 69% of them said an executive focus on risk and risk mitigation, threat mitigation. That means more CIOs are reading those headlines. CEOs, CIOs, everyone's reading those headlines and saying, we don't want to be the next data breach. We don't want to be the next open bucket in the cloud. What are you doing to protect our data in the cloud? And the CEO might not recognize all that a IT team is doing to protect data, but they know that they don't want to be in that headline. So it's very interesting at Commvault GO, some of our training classes that are more detailed classes have sold out. Because people really want that education of how do I do this and do this well. And Microsoft, Amazon, Google, all the cloud vendors are really supporting education right now, so people can stay ahead of the curve. There are free online classes from Microsoft and Amazon and Google. Microsoft has an AI school for free, so you can learn how do I stay ahead of some of these things. And we really hear from a lot of people who come to Commvault GO, they come here to learn the latest and greatest in the technology so they can go back and implement it. They learn from other customers, and they say, someone like us did this in Australia or in France, and how can we go back and implement this? So this is a great event for networking, collaborating, and finding those new ideas and looking at the new technology, taking those ideas back and implementing them, and then coming back and speaking a year later. I spoke with a customer yesterday who last year was his first Commvault GO. He learned so much. He's actually speaking this year about what he implemented since then.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, the thing that really struck me yesterday, wandering around, is the amount of training that was taking place that was literally booked rooms. I poked my head in a couple, thinking I'll just have a little listen in. There was no seats. I had to stand at the back and check it out. And that was, wow. Certification, all those things. And I think, as you said, in the networking element, I mean, there's plenty of breakout time, plus the evening last night, for people just get to know each other and listening to some of the stories. I mean, there's some war stories, but also a lot of success stories. I was quite impressed by the number of success stories. People were saying, well, this got us out of trouble, because as you said, no one wants to be on the front page. And as you said, CEOs are paying attention because at the end of the day, the buck stops with them. And they've got, as you mentioned before, ransomware, they've got cybersecurity attacks, they've got viruses that can get into the system and be there for months or years. And then we've got other compliance challenges at the other end, where we may have done something 5 years ago that was an issue. Now GDPR or something else comes along, it is an issue. We've got data that's stored that we now need to be able to bring back and treat in some way and put back on media. So I guess, in many ways, some of the new announcements of the products you've got now solve that. You've been solving those types of problems for a long time traditionally anyway. So let me ask you one last question if I can before we wrap up. Listening to what you've got here, you've got this pool of amazing data. I imagine that there's an opportunity to do a lot of predictive analysis in this space. I mean, where do we go from here? I mean, obviously you continue running the cloud survey, and congratulations on 3 years so far. Where do you take it from here? I mean, I imagine that you continue to grow the type of data sets and questions you ask. It's a no-brainer. But how far do you extend this out? Do you then go from using that information internally to maybe making it available to the market or to customers? Where do we go from here, and how do you apply some of the predictive analysis you could put into this data set?
Well, excellent. Actually, we do share a lot of it with the market, and we'll be releasing some things in the weeks after GO that help the market understand what this data is. But it's also really crucial for our partners, our services partners that are developing those long-term data strategies with our customers. No one has a one-year plan. Everyone's working at year 1, year 2, year 3, and everyone's thinking about their futures. And so we will be surveying to ask our customers if they are using how they're going to be using the container support, the Kubernetes and OpenShift. What are they going to be doing with those projects? What's driving those projects? We know they want to use those technologies. We want to understand the why and the how. How are you using this to better serve your business? And we'll pass that information on with our partners, both our cloud partners like Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Oracle, and all the private cloud vendors, so they understand what's driving these initiatives, and they are great at helping us advocate that they are excellent at high availability, highly secure clouds. They are not backup platforms. That is not what they do.
It's scary that it was an afterthought, but I guess it's just one of those things that you focus on your core business, and then you look back and go, oh, backups.
Well, they have tremendous products. Don't get me wrong, they have tremendous products. It's just not what their core focus. That's not what they do. So our part of the market does. So we'll be using the information, we'll share it with our cloud vendors, our cloud partners, we'll also share it with our services partners so they can better go out and develop strategies with our customers to say, this is a trend that's coming sooner than expected. And there's one thing that just hasn't changed in the survey, and I hope that this continues on. Since I've been running this survey, I also ask for free-form feedback from customers so they can share with me their quotes, their feedback, what they like or don't like, or what they want to see improved. And it's interesting, I asked them, what's not changing? What is something that you get from Commvault Cloud Data Protection that helps you? And consistently, every year, people say reliability, reliability, and they also say peace of mind. And that's something I can find quotes from every survey that talk about peace of mind, knowing that my data is protected. And I had those conversations just yesterday with some IT leaders who said, I sleep better. I got some of my time back. And that's what we really want to see trending is, more focus on your real life and not so much on moving tapes around on a Saturday night. So.
And getting those beeps, or we used to have pages, now we get SMSs on phones.
Exactly.
There's actually a really, there's almost like a bit of a pun competition going on around the event here. I've seen these little placards with great things, and there's one out there somewhere near where we were having dinner last night, and it was essentially, get your vacation back, which I thought was pretty cute. And I think, absolutely underpinning all of that, the reason we're putting Commvault's technology in place, the reason we're working with Commvault is to get our Saturdays back, and the fundamental part, but also to be ahead of the curve of risk mitigation and compliance and governance problems as well. Penny, it's been absolutely fantastic to chat with you, and some amazing stats. I look forward to seeing what comes out of this year's data, because I think this, more than any other year, has been a very big year for change and complexity, and I don't see any indication that it's ever going to slow down. I'm only seeing indication it's going to speed up. So God help us for the next 12 months. Well, congratulations on 3 years so far, and I look forward to seeing the data that comes out of it, and hopefully we'll get the opportunity to catch up next year and see how things will change from then.
I look forward to it. Thank you so much, Des.
Thanks, Penny.
Great.